You are very welcome to episode 26, 27 of the Scaling Your Business podcast. This week, I've got the CEO and founder of Moxi Loves, Pamela. You're very welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Delighted to be here.
Delighted to have you. I had the pleasure of being on a Magnate call this weekend where you were one of the speakers. So I'm pumped for this. I'm going to make an assumption. What I like to do with my guests is I like to go back to kind of like chapter 1, chapter 2 of their lives. I'm going to make the assumption that you grew up in Dublin.
I did. That's a good assumption. Yes.
What was life like growing up in Dublin? Do you have any favorite memories?
Oh my gosh. I think I was maybe I took it a bit for granted. Growing up Dublin was great. Like I had access to everything. I had my first job in city centre in town. Loved it. Loved that working environment, the like bustly city, like Grafton Street. At the age of 16, it was just like the best thing ever to me. So I have great memories of kind of going home after school and like changing into my work outfit while loads of my friends weren't bothered. I was just so into having a job. So I loved that.
You mentioned job. Do you come from a family of entrepreneurs, or is that just something that clicked with you?
No, total family of entrepreneurs. My mom had her own beauty salon before I was born. My dad had a car
Wow.
sales business. So it was in the family, in the genes, like since day dot.
Amazing. Have you got any influence, or like who were you most influenced by is probably a better question as a kid?
I think it had to be my mom. I mean, even just the way how hard she worked, like I would go there after school and I would spend a lot of time in the salon and I loved it. Like as a kid, I loved playing with the products. I just loved that whole environment. So she was my inspiration to work hard and to be in that industry, I guess, because I just looked up to her so much.
Amazing. I can see from my research I'm looking at my notes here, you spent some time working as a sales assistant in Brown Thomas, House of Fraser, Dublin Airport as a nail technician, if I've got that right.
You do.
Curious to know, what did those roles teach you? Did you take any lessons before you went into your kind of self-employment?
For sure. So Brown Thomas was my first job as like a teenager. I loved it. And I was there 2 years and I worked probably a lot harder than most of the part-timers. You know, I did Thursday evening, Saturday and Sunday, but I didn't want to just do what I had to do and leave. Like I would reorganize the stock room. I would take Polaroids of the handbags and, organize everything. And it always felt like I'm going to work really hard and nobody's going to appreciate this because I'm just the part-timer. And it gave me that real moment of I want to work for myself instantly. So I left that job and I started to figure out what I wanted to do when I left school. So it was my last year in school, sixth year, and I set up a nail bar to open like the day after my debs, I think it was, when I was in 2018.
I wasn't working the day after my debs, I can tell you that.
I was very different. Like all my friends were planning their J1, the Erasmus, college, all of that kind of stuff. And I was literally planning to like work really hard. And it just was so exciting to me. So I set up my own nail bar. I was a nail technician. I qualified during third year and transition year in school. And that was my first real job after school, was running my own nail bar. So it was amazing.
Wow. You've mentioned your mother. You gave her a shout out as one who influenced you most.
Yeah.
Did you spend any time working together with each other?
Definitely. There was a period of time between when I finished up in Brown Thomas and my last year in school, which was sixth year. So I would go to the salon and work instead for that final year. And I loved it. And that was like getting me geared up, ready to take on new clients in House Fraser in the department store with the nail bar, and even just get to grips. Like, throughout the summers I would work with my mom. My mom also was a distributor for some products, so she would sell into other salons. So we would do the trade shows and I would always be there, and trade shows were always over like a bank holiday or some sort of summertime thing. So I would be there like the hard graft selling at the stands, and I loved that, like that buzz. You can't beat it. So I would do all of that throughout the year with her, and yeah, so we worked together a lot.
Oh, you mentioned that buzz. I about 4 years ago, I had the opportunity to speak at a small conference in the States, and there must have been only 70 to 80 people in the room, but I had prepped for hours upon hours, and I gave the talk, and afterwards I got that buzz, and ever since then I've just been chasing that feeling since. And anytime someone says, will you talk at this conference, I'll jump at it instantly, because that buzz is just addictive. Yeah. Moxie Loves, talk to me about, for anyone who hasn't heard of it, talk to me about it. And the reason why I want to ask this question is because you were giving a talk, I think it was Saturday morning that I was on the line, And one of the things you said to me, I went up to my parents' house afterwards and I said, did you know that 90% of makeup is made from water? Like it just stuck in my head. I was so shocked that 90% of makeup was
Yes.
made from water. Was that one of the things that got you into starting Moxie Loves?
You know, it's interesting. What actually got me starting Moxi Loves was my need for something bigger than the nail bar. I wasn't really able to see how I could scale that properly to the level I wanted to. So I decided I would try and do something that was bigger and more exciting and get me really creative with innovation. And so I started to come up with the concept of the brand. And the main concept was like solving problems. How could I solve a problem? How can I make a product better? What can I do? And so it started there, and then it evolved into, as you do more research, as you get really creative, you start to see the problems in the industry. And the problem is that there's no need for product to be made up with 80 to 90% water. And when I go back to my mum as a facialist in the salon, so many products were actually mixed there and then ready to go on the skin because they were the most potent. So they weren't sitting on a shelf for months. And the reason that that is the case is because when you add water, you have to add stabilizers, preservatives. There's loads of things you have to do that deactivate the active ingredients. And so that really got me thinking, well, why can't we do something for the everyday consumer that's similar to what we would do in a salon? And then it got me on this road of, well, waterless has to be better. And actually, it turns out it is.
Amazing. One question I always ask my guests is to talk about a pivotal moment where they had a challenge they had to face. The challenge that I've picked out for you from my research is you had an error in your ingredient list and you purchased 60,000 units and you had to relabel them all. Can you talk to me about this and how you
Yeah.
came back from it?
Do you know what? I wish that was the last time that happened. But it wasn't. I did it once. We ordered the product in. There was a misspelling in the label and a warning, literally just one word or one line missing. So I had to get stickers and we had to label 60,000 units. And we had to do it in a really short space of time because we were scaling so quickly. So they came in and we'd already printed the bags. So there was nothing I could do. So relabeled those. And I was like, right, well, I'll never do that again, right? Because that only happens once. No, I was rushing our product through because we've had a bit of an issue with some single-use plastic in our cotton buds. So we had to come up with a new product straight away. I had to rush it out to market the packaging. And I left the barcode off 75,000 units.
Oh, wow. Well, that's where you find out who your true friends are. You give them a call.
Oh,
Hey, I need your help.
friends, family. It's one of those things that it's taught me a lot of lessons. We don't
It's
really
funny
have.
though to look back
It
on.
is funny. It is funny. But look, do you know what? I can just laugh about it. Look, it could be something to do with the actual formula. That would be a huge disaster. Labeling, it's not a big deal. Brands have to do it all the time. If you ever look closely at packaging, sometimes you'll see there's a label stuck on something. And I actually have spoken to loads of brand owners since then, and they've all gone, listen, we've done the same thing. You know, someone took off a sleeve off a product because they thought it looked better, and they're sure the barcode was on all the sleeves. They had to do that. So look, I'm not alone for sure.
Yeah, for sure. If anyone's checked you out on social media, they'll see you've traveled to countries like Venice or cities like Venice, London, Dubai, Korea. You're also a dog owner as well. Shout out to your dog.
She's
What's
literally just after opening my door here. I've actually had to call for
amazing?
backup.
The dog is always welcome to come onto the podcast. What's one thing you're into or curious about that not a lot of people know?
Oh, what would not a lot of people know? I'm addicted to shopping. I don't know if people don't know that, but to calm down, to relax, I just go online shopping. I scroll, it just switches me off. I get a real adrenaline rush from shopping. It's probably my first job, being in a department store. It was a bad idea. It started me young. And yeah, it's an issue, I have an issue with that.
I have a similar thing. I got one of these, I might have it in my pocket, one of these one for all gift card vouchers.
Yes.
Where is it here? This gift card voucher, one for all.
Okay.
And self-employed, you can pay yourself. You can buy one of these €500 a year, and it's tax free. So I bought one at Christmas, and
Jeez.
it's tax free. And over the weekend, I was scrolling on the internet, and my girlfriend was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I have €500,
I've got to
and
spend it.
I want to spend it right now." I couldn't find anything I wanted to buy, but so I feel you on that. I've mentioned you travel, Venice,
Yes.
London, Dubai, Korea. I think I know the answer to this because you've given it before, but your answer may have changed. What's one country that you're going to visit when restrictions lift?
Oh, I mean, to be honest, where I would love to go and where I probably will go, I will go to London. I will go to London straight away. I think I have so much to do in the UK. I haven't even seen my product on shelf in Boots yet in the flesh over there. So I'm so excited. But like if I could go anywhere and it didn't have to relate to work, I would get on a plane. I would probably either go to Venice, but like if I could really go somewhere, it would probably be the Caribbean and just hit a different time zone up, get to the beach, know that nobody's going to ring me because they're all asleep, you know, for a portion of the day, to just have that moment where I could be left alone. Would be nice.
Nice. You say giving your phone away. I listened to a podcast before where you talk about you've had to give your phone away for periods of time for other commitments.
Yes.
What's that like? I don't think I've ever been attached to my phone for more than 2 hours.
Quite honestly, I've never done it before. I did not think I would be like capable of doing it in that sense. Like, what was
Yeah.
I, 12 weeks without my phone? Without the internet, without a laptop, without any communication to anybody. So that was so hard. And I thought it would be harder. Like, I don't know if I could do that in the real, like living my normal life, but in that process when I was filming, it was like we were all without our phones. So it was really weird.
Yeah.
Like we were having dinner and we were just talking to each other. Like there was no phone anywhere. Do you know, there was no time to do that. So it's fine when everybody around you is off their phone. But as soon as I got my phone back in my hand when I was fired by Lord Sugar, I was like glued again, addicted.
You gave a talk at the Salon Owners Summit in 2020. One thing you
Yes.
talk about was that imposter syndrome. You say 70% of people suffer from it. You've mentioned you've spoken about it in the snippet.
Yeah.
You lost an investor. In every negative, there's an opportunity. Can you talk to me about what the summary of that talk and why you chose to highlight imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I thought it was important because I think it's something a lot of people have to deal with, and maybe they don't even know what it really means or how it can affect them. And to me, like people would think, well, you can't have imposter syndrome because you went on TV, you are so sure of yourself. But actually, that's easy for me. Like that kind of stuff is like, okay, I can be myself, my personality's here. Throw me into a boardroom with real investors, real VCs, angels, whatever, or business chatter, and I feel like a complete imposter. No business degree, you know, got here by pure graft, which is great. But at the same time, I always feel like it's my Achilles heel when I enter any of these conversations, because it's not like, oh, well, Pamela, you're great, you've done this. It's like, well, can you talk to me about like, you know, whatever gross margin percentages, you know, things that I've had to like really learn. And so I constantly feel that like that doesn't go away. So I know the illusion might be that, oh, like it's everything's great because you can say this and do all these things, but actually I still feel it. And I think a lot of people feel it in their own way. And I think when I was speaking to salon owners, I thought, you know, my mom was a salon owner, I was a nail bar owner. How do you make that leap into something more and bigger and grow? And you know, accept that you might feel that, and that's okay. And then actually sometimes being underestimated and being the most underestimated in the room can be an advantage. So I've tried to see it that way, although I still do feel a bit of that sometimes.
That was my follow-up question. Do you think it's an advantage itself because you're making sure you cross your I's and dot your T's, or dot your I's and cross your T's, whatever way that was meant to be said.
Yeah.
Because then you're not going to give people the opportunity to go, see, I was right. You didn't do this, and as a result of that, this was going to happen.
Exactly. And I think, look, you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea when you're not ticking all the boxes. But at the same time, there are things that I've learned that somebody straight out of a college degree just wouldn't have, that life experience. So I know that there's an advantage to what I think is a disadvantage. And in turn, you're right. You do end up showing up 10 times better, 10 times stronger, because you really just don't want that to happen. So yeah, I think I'm always over prepared.
Amazing. Advice to your younger self. One thing you've stated is to raise money when you don't need it.
Yes.
Why?
I think because two reasons. It takes up so much time when you're looking for money.
Mm-hmm.
I even if I look back when I was looking for money on Dragon's Den and everyone's like, that pitch was amazing, like that was great. And I'm like, yeah, it was 6 months running a business. Like, how many things have gone wrong? Nothing. There's only good things to say. So in my mind, when you don't need money, there's very little negatives to talk about. So when you're actually running a business over 4 years, like I am now, there are peaks and troughs. You know, there are things that have happened that you have to explain. And sometimes that can come across negative. It can put doubt in people's minds. Whereas when you're on this upward trajectory, that is the time, that is the time to raise it, I think anyway. And then you're free to grow your business. You can focus. You're not going, oh God, I should have done this 6 months ago. Now I'm 6 months behind. It's going to take another 8 months to get the cash. And like, it's just, you don't want to be squeezed. And I feel like when you need it, you're already at a disadvantage.
So if someone's listening to this and says, yes, Pamela, I completely agree, but I don't know where to go, I don't know how to take that first step, what would you say to them?
It's a hard one. I would probably, in my experience, again, things I should have done earlier, Dublin BIC have been fantastic. Local enterprise office, Enterprise Ireland. Even if you're not going to be, like, I wasn't an EI client, but the support that I've gotten from them, even though I'm not a client, it's like, you're not really ticking all the boxes as a client, but here, Dublin BIC are doing this, we'd like to put you forward. Or local enterprise have this mentor, like you can get 6 hours with an amazing mentor for 100 quid.
Wow.
And that's with local enterprise office. So you don't have to be a huge company to get these benefits. And that mentor that I had was on the board of an amazing an Irish retail product. And just the advice that he gave me at that stage was really what I needed. So get the help, because it's there. Now you do have to do a bit of professional form filling, which isn't fun. But once you've done it once, I would always say to people, this is a tip that I wish someone told me. The first form you fill in, copy and paste it and save it in a Word document, and then just go back to that and paste it in. Because once you've done it once, it's probably a carbon copy for every other thing you're going to apply for. And it's there, that you can just take it and not talk yourself out of applying for something.
That has to be the greatest invention ever, copy and paste. If I could award one human being with 20% of my worth for the rest of my life, it would be whoever invented copy and paste. I am so lazy. And when I have to do something and I know I have to do it again, I'll just go back and paste the last thing I did.
Yeah, and update it. Bit of something here at the beginning, bit of something at the end. And I mean, it saves you so much time.
Absolutely. You've mentioned a mentor there, 6 hours. You have any mentors at the moment, or how do you continue to kind of, like, let's phrase it, continue to learn and invest in yourself? Books, podcasts?
I do love a good podcast. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a terrible book reader, so I usually try and do audiobooks because my attention span is quite low. But Gary Fox, The Entrepreneur Experiment, listen to that all the time. Now, sometimes I'm not ready to hear someone's amazing success story. Sometimes I'm in a bit of a space where I'm like, I don't need a happy story right now. Okay, I'm going to leave that episode until I'm ready to receive it. But there have been some great ones in there where people are really talking about some crap things that have happened in business, and I like to hear the realness. So his are fantastic. I think as well, I have this unofficial advisory board, which I didn't really realize until I'm raising money now, that they are actually people I call all the time mentors that I wouldn't call a mentor, but people that I ring and ask for advice. And I think that's really come from trying to network as much as possible, and not even realizing that I'm networking, but reaching out to other brand owners, even just speaking to people in marketing and PR and the Magnate group. Like, I've met a couple of people there who I'm like, this is just really solid people that I could call, not every day, but at times where I'd like their advice. And I think you don't realize you have them, but when you're open and you're a bit more open about your business, people will respond. And not everybody's helpful, but the ones that are, hang on to them and be helpful back. You never know how you just replying to somebody with a tidbit of information could really, really help them. So I always try and pay it back as much as I can as well.
Networking. You've mentioned Magnate Group. James McCormack, the founder of Dublin Barista School, and Gareth, the founder of Magnate Group and Park and Pay or Park Office, they've complemented networking as crucial to their success and their continued success. How big of a role do you think it's played in your success to date?
Not a huge amount to date. At the beginning, I was very isolated, which I think definitely hindered some of the growth. And even just nobody around me was in that space. Like, my friends were all just leaving college after getting, masters, and nobody was at the level I was at. And I felt like if I'd had some of the people around me that I have today, I would have probably had an easier journey. People who've done it before who can tell you the things to look out for. So now I would say it's invaluable, because you're not meeting people now. Those people that you can contact, that Magnate group meeting once a month, the little things like that really keep you going as an entrepreneur, because it's so lonely. And when people ask you, people like normal people, how's business? You're like, it's great, it's fab, yeah, it's brilliant. You're like, I'm not even going to go there. Whereas when someone in business asks you, you're like, listen, do you have 20 minutes? I'll tell you. So from that side of things, it's a lonely road if you don't network, and actually you just don't know who or what you're going to pick up along the way. And I think it's been key over the last year keep me going.
Sometimes it can be difficult. I'm in complete agreement with you here. Sometimes it can be difficult to hear the success stories of others when your head is in the game and you're trying to focus and build your own business. There's a couple of podcasts I listen to myself, shout out to Gary as well, where there's a lot of people talking about the success and the podcasters bumping them up. There's two that I want to give a shout out to recently. Gary opened up about his struggles over the last 2 years. And I think from that, he got an interview on RTE because he was so open. And then there's another guy I listen to in the States who I stopped listening to for 5 or 6 months. And today he titled his podcast, basically, I've been lying for the last couple of months that I've been happy. And then he was really raw and he got the most number of views. So shout out to those that are not afraid to kind of talk about the raw elements rather than success the entire time, because it can be difficult. And glad to hear that you said that as well, because you're one of the first that I've heard to say it recently that, hey, I can get bored of listening to success stories.
Yeah. And sometimes you just can't relate because you're not at a stage where, and sometimes it's an introduction, and it's not to say somebody's lucky, but you don't have that opportunity. So you can't replicate their success. You can listen to that podcast 10 times and it'll never apply to you. So it can be so difficult when you're not in the place to receive the kind of nuggets that are probably mixed in with the I'm great and look how well I've done.
Exactly. And when you dig deep enough, you'll find out, and look, hard work goes into all of it, but you'll find out usually that there was a moment of luck and they just put themselves in that position more times than the average person did. There's a guy in America called Tom Hopkins. He's like a famous sales trainer, Zig Ziglar kind of level. And he said the changing moment for him was when he was at a conference he wasn't supposed to be speaking at. The guy, the head keynote speaker, was in traffic and was late. And the conference guy said, hey, can you go up and entertain the audience until the keynote speaker comes in? Turns out the keynote speaker could never arrive. This guy got a full 40 minutes talk. And from that one talk led to another. And now he's, multi-millionaire years down the line. He's obviously put a lot of hard work in, but those moments of luck, you can't manufacture or force them to happen. You can increase your chance of it happening by put yourself in enough situations. Anyway, I digress. I want to bring it back. If your house was burning down, your loved ones are fine, your dog is fine, what one item would you save if you could only save one?
Is my phone in my pocket?
Your phone's in your pocket.
Okay. Just checking. Having had my laptop die with all my data, every email that I own, not backed up in any way, it would have to be my laptop, because I'm so terrified of that happening again. So I would just need it with me.
What did you do in that situation?
I'm still realizing all the stuff that I'm missing. I tried to just totally block that out and go, that's fine. Like, I know everything. And then it's like, can I have a copy of this? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I'm like, oh, I don't have that. Like, that was from 2017 and I'm never going to get it back. So yeah, it's been fun. It's nothing that my world will collapse for, but at the same time, there's like contact, someone I emailed before and I just don't have that contact again. So frustrating, but I would take my laptop straight away. It's too much on here.
Nice. So the last guest I had, Daniel Nugent from Amber Eyewear, he said a coffee machine. Always interesting here. Yeah.
I mean, I would probably try and put the laptop in a few handbags that are my favorites. I would, try and be creative. Like clever.
Yeah. For sure. Funny that I mentioned coffee, listening to the podcast. I know you're not a coffee or tea fan, but you are a Monster fan. I'm a huge Monster fan as well. What's your favorite Monster?
Okay, the new one. Have you seen this turquoise one floating around now?
I haven't. I've been addicted to the blue one forever, and I kind of refuse to go near other ones.
No, the greeny, like turquoise one. I just finished the can, but it's not here. But it is tropical, like mango, passion fruit flavor. It's amazing. But if I were to really pick, and I'm devastated because it's gone, was the orange flavor. Like solid.
Yes, yeah,
orange.
That was a solid one.
And there was yellow. That's gone as well. Like both my favorites. So it's the turquoisey color now.
I'm a fan of Fulfill bars, and I haven't seen a yellow Fulfill bar, the lemon one, in about 2 years, and I feel like they've been like discontinued.
Yeah.
Again, sad day. They were my favorite as well.
It's just not fair. Like, we're the solid fans. We should be looked after.
I agree. I would like you to imagine that it's 2030 and you're looking back over the last decade. What would you like to have achieved? You can answer this personally, professionally, whatever way you choose.
Yeah. I think raising money, first of all, and building a team. If I could look back and say that was the year I took the next step, which I feel like I'm ready to do. Take the cash in, grow the brand, but grow the team, like be more of a business, and not just me spinning a million plates. And America's the big one for me. I would love to just go at it, make it happen, and yeah, be a brand over there would just be the dream.
If you could establish an office in any city in America, what city would you go for?
I think it would have to be Florida, somewhere in Florida, Miami, maybe.
And would you have a house there part time so you could spend some of your time
I
there
mean,
too?
yeah, just a casual house in South Beach, like no big deal. It would be nice.
Yeah, it's an amazing part of the world. I go over for a conference to Orlando every March. Didn't get to go the
Wow.
last 2 years, but yeah, I got to experience Daytona Bike Week. I'm
Oh
not a
wow.
huge bike fan, but my dad has a Harley Davidson, and he said, "Hey, we got to go to this." And it was just like, picture all these jacked dudes with, you know, the mustaches, the helmets, and everything, and they look terrifying, but they're the nicest, friendliest people in the
Wow.
world.
I'm picturing Sons of Anarchy now.
Yeah, it was pretty much that Florida sunset and just a lot of beer and just people being super friendly and nice. And
Amazing.
yeah, well, again, I don't own a bike, but I'd certainly go back to it. Pamela, I've had a pleasure in getting to know you and asking you some questions. I wish you every success going forward. I hope that you conquer America, and maybe one day they'll bring back your favorite monster. But thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great crack chatting to you.